Today we're going to be talking about solving inequalities. And basically, if you can solve equations, you can solve inequalities. Because solving inequalities is the same as solving equations, except whenever you multiply or divide by a negative number, you switch the direction of the arrow, which is the inequality symbol. So let's just solve this like we normally would. Think of your less than symbol as you would an equal sign. You can draw a line down through it. You want to get x alone, subtract 12 from each side. So we have x is less than 8. I'm just going to make a very quick graph over here. Here's 8. I'll put 0 down here, 16 up on this end. Open dot on 8 with an arrow going to the left. Okay, so now let's do the next one. We want to get, I want to get D alone in this next one. Draw a line down through, so we add 5 to each side. So we have D is greater than negative 2. Go ahead and make your graph. Here's 0, here's negative 2, negative 4. Open dot on negative 2 and an arrow going to the right. You get the idea. Now this next one. I don't know why it keeps doing this. Next one. We want to get n by itself. So we're going to add 0.3 to each side. The 0.3's cancel. And we have 1.2 is greater than or equal to n. Well, normally we write the n on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that. If we switch the n so that it's on the left and the 1.2 so it's on the right, the only thing we have to do is switch the direction of the arrow. The arrow needs to keep pointing at what it was already pointing at. If it was pointing at the n, it needs to continue to point at the n. I would really, really recommend to keep all of your variables on the left if you can. So I'm going to add that. Keep variables on the left. Even if it means that in order to do so, you have to switch your answer around at the end like I just did. So n is less than or equal to 1.2. I'm just going to put something like this. 0. Here's 5. Here's 1.2 down here. Close dot with an arrow going to the left. Okay. Next. Sammy has a gift card. She's already used $14 of the total value, which was $30. Write, solve, and graph an inequality to show how much more she can spend. Okay? So she's already spent 14. She wants to spend some more. So let's call X the amount that she can spend. If we add that to X, it's got to be less than or equal to 30. Because she can't spend over 30. She can spend less than that, but she can't spend over that. So now we can go ahead and solve. We'll subtract 14 from each side, and X is less than or equal to 16. So here is our graph. Here's 10, here's 20, 16's right about here. We have an open dot, then an arrow going to the left. So X is less than or equal to $16, remember. These were dollar amounts that we were talking about. Okay. Mrs. Lawrence wants to buy an antique bracelet at an auction. She's willing to bid no more than $550. So far, the highest bid is $475. Write and solve an inequality to determine the amount Mrs. Lawrence can add to the bid. So let's have X be the amount that she can add. You can use whatever variable you want. So the highest bid is $475. Whatever she adds to it, which is her X, can add up to no more than $550. So it has to be less than or equal to $550. And now what I'd like you to do is to continue to solve that equation. Okay, or solve the inequality, I should say. So do finish that one for me, please. Next, solve each inequality and graph. Now, let's go ahead and treat this just like we did the other equations. We're just going to draw a line down through the inequality sign. To get x alone, divide everything by 3. So x is greater than -9. So here's 5. Oh, I'm going to say -5, 0. I'm going the wrong way. Let me fix this for a second. I was thinking positive, which isn't the case at all. So we have 0, let's say -10. Here's -9 here. We have an open dot with an arrow going to the right. I'm going to leave the rest of the graphs to you at this point. Next one. Get x alone, divide everything by 7. So we get x is greater than -6. I'm going to let you graph that. This one. We want to get m alone. It's being divided by 3. So let's multiply each side by 3. They cancel. 3 times 2.4 is 7.2. So I have 7.2 is less than or equal to m. I do want m to be on the left as always, so I'm going to switch the position of the m and the 7.2. And when I do that, I have to change the direction of the arrow. And now I'm going to leave that to you to graph. 3/4 is less than 12. What we're going to do is, well, I forgot to put I meant to put an x here, so let's write that in. 3/4 x is less than 12. So in order to get x alone, we're going to have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 3/4. Remember doing this? Okay, the 4's cancel, the 3's cancel, and we have x is less than, well, we can cancel. 3 goes into 3 once. It goes into 12 4 times, and 4 times 4 is 16. And I'm going to leave it to you to graph that. Next, divide everything by -12. -12's cancel. We have x is greater. Now, wait a minute. I'm starting to write x is greater. Should I stop? Remember, I said right in the beginning, we might not still be thinking about it. I said right in the beginning, whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number, the direction of the arrow changes. So, we've just divided by a -12, so the arrow must point the other way. 84 divided by -12 gives you -7. And then if you just want to graph that, 0, -7. I should have made it longer going the other way. There's your arrow and an open dot. Okay, next. Let's try this one. -8 is less than or equal to x over -3. We want to get x alone. X is being divided by -3, so we're going to have to multiply both sides by -3. The -3's on the right cancel, and -3 times -8 is +24. I've just multiplied by a negative number, so that's telling me I have to change the direction of the arrow. Now I have x on the right-hand side. I always want my variable to go on the left, so I'm going to switch everything around, but when I do, the arrow also has to change directions as well. So in this problem, we changed directions of the arrow twice, and we'll just briefly graph that. Here's 20, 25, here's 24. Closed dot on the 24 with an arrow going to the left. Let's continue. Jill has a $20 gift card to an art supply store where 4-ounce tubes of paint are $4.30 each after tax. What are the possible numbers of tubes that Jill can buy? Okay, so if it's $4.30 per tube and X is the number of tubes, we're going to say $4.30 times X has to be less than or equal to $20. The 4 ounces, the amount of the tube, has absolutely nothing to do with this particular problem. So now, what we want to do is we want to get x alone. So let's divide each side by 430. So 20 divided by 430. X has to be less than or equal to 4.65 tubes. Now you know you can't have 4.65 tubes. So she can buy 1 tube, 2 tubes, 3 tubes, or 4 tubes. She can't go beyond that to 4.65 tubes. As long as it's less than or equal to 4.65, but we really know it has to be less than or equal to 4. She can buy 1, 2, 3, or 4 tubes. Now, we're on to two-step equations here, and maybe even some multi-step ones. Let's get B alone in this case. Remember how we just solved the equations before? Subtract 45 from each side. So we have 2B is greater than 16. Divide everything by 2. And we have B is greater than 8. Here's 0 and 8. Open dot on the 8 with an arrow to the right. Next one, subtract 8 from each side. We're left with negative 3y is greater than or equal to 21. Divide everything by negative 3. And when we divide by a negative, we have to switch the arrow. So we have y is less than or equal to negative 7. Here's your graph, 0. Here's negative 7. Close dot with an arrow going to the left. Moving on. 2 minus negative 10 is greater than 4t. Well, we got to simplify that. This is the same as 2 plus 10, so we have 12 is greater than 4t. Divide both sides by 4. We have 3 is greater than t. We're going to have to put the t on the left, change the arrow, and move the 3 to the right. I know you know how to graph that. Next, we want to get rid of these parentheses, so we'll distribute. So we have negative 8 plus 4x is less than or equal to 8. We need to add 8 to each side. So 4x is less than or equal to 16. Divide by positive 4, and x is less than or equal to 4. So we have a closed dot on 4 with an arrow going to the left. Next, we want to solve this by subtracting a half from each side. Okay, so we need a common denominator, which in this case is going to be 6. So 3 goes into 6 twice, so we'll have 2 6. So we have 2 6 minus 3 6, which is actually going to give you negative 1 6. So 1/2 cancel, so we have 2/3 f is greater than negative 1 6. Multiply each side by 3/2. The 3's and the 2's cancel over here. I have f is greater than, I'm just going to multiply across. We have negative 3 over 12, which gives us negative 1/4. So f is greater than negative 1/4. Okay, and this next problem, I'd like you to try this problem on your own. This is how we'll start the next class. We'll go over this last problem, see what you can come up with. Thank you very much.